Fortunately, I grew up in a community where when someone died, everyone went to their funeral. People who hadn't been outdoors everybody went to their funeral. And fortunately for where I grew up, our house was like here, our farmhouse had set on a small hill here, and you went down a dip to the next hill. And right out there from our porch, from our east-facing porch, you could see the cemetery and the church right there. And everyone that died, men in the community came out and dug their graves. They didn't have a backhoe. And so my grandpa was always going out there to help dig somebody's grave. And I remember as a little boy, I'd walk out there, and these 6 or 7 men would be digging a grave, and I'd stand up on top, and I'd look down in there and realize that, a casket's going to go down in there. And I suppose by the time I was 12 or 13 years old, I'd gone to 50 funerals. Death is the ultimate reality of life. But if all I'd done was going to parties, I thought partying was the ultimate reality of life. And that's what Solomon is saying here. And so let's move on. Sorrow is better than laughter, for when a face is sad, a heart may be happy. The mind of the wise is in the house of mourning, while the mind of fools is in the house of pleasure. It is so. Just think about that for a second. That's what feasting and parties and enjoying life apart from Christ gives us a false impression of what life is like. This is not what life is. We have to keep the perspective in mind. So meditate on those passages a little bit later on during the week. So let's go to the end of the story. We want to go back. We want to do 2 things today, if I can move fast enough to get you through it, so you can meditate on it on your own and go back and study it a little bit. So we want to go to chapter 12. And for anyone who's not been where I've taught before, I characterize my own teaching as a dump truck driver. I have this big load of stuff in the back of the truck. My job is to back the truck up and dump all this stuff on you. Your job, so we don't usually do a lot of discussion, your job is to sort through that stuff and find out, all that's there. So that's my method. If you don't like that method, I apologize. That's been my method for years, because I see my job is to get stuff in your head. That's my job. So, chapter 12, see if we go through 1 through 12, our minds get jumbled up in some of the stuff, so we want to come to the conclusion that Koheleth came to and then back ourselves up a little bit. So 12:1. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near when you will say, I have no delight in them. Before the sun, the light, the moon, and the stars are darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. Okay, we're going to get a thing here. That's where you have your happy little outline I gave you this morning. The poem of time and aging, and I've entitled this didn't find its way into the syllabus, but you have it in your hand, you can stick it in your syllabus. So, we have a little bit of an Americanization culture issue here. We usually Americanize the Bible. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, okay? The minute we use the word youth, our brains go, oh, teenagers, junior high, senior high. No, the word is a comparative word that means all the stuff he's going to talk about in a minute. Before you get there, anywhere in your life, you can be in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and you're still in your youth, because he's going to draw this picture of old age, and he's going to say, okay, put God first in your life before you get here. So, our demographers today, or demographers, however you pronounce that word, have classified elderlies in this classification, or older people, because that's what he's going to talk about. 65 to 75 are young olds. Okay, John, where's John Roberts go?
Right here.
Oh gosh, you're so close I can't see you. My eyes are only hitting the second row back. Okay, you're in the spit zone, John. So if I get real wound up, I usually only do that when I preach. So teaching. Okay, so John and I have passed beyond the younger olders. Okay, you got that? We're beyond 75. He and I are both pushing 80. He's pushing a little harder than I am. But I thought I would say this morning, John, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead, because John and I have been friends for a long time. One of the things he and I are never going to give up on is serving God. It just is not going to happen. We're going to serve God till the day we die, and we're going to be happy that other people are... Something I think about all the time, especially when I have a funeral. And I usually say it in a funeral. All things being equal, one of these days people are going to be coming to my funeral. I hope they come and say some nice things. It's okay if they don't. So, we're past... so John and I are in the 75 to 85. We are in the medium seniors.
I circled that.
You circled that? Okay. You and I are in the medium seniors classification. Now, when you get above 85, you're in the oldest olds, or the senior seniors, or the elderly elderlies. It's to infinity and beyond. It's where you are. And so, Solomon says the same thing here, back in... right here in chapter 12, look at verse 1. Before the evil days come and the years draw near, when you will say, I have no delight in them. George Marco, for those of you who know George, made a great little quip a while back. He said, who in the world ever called these the golden years? They'd never gotten here themselves. That's a misapprehension of the first order. There is nothing golden about them. Your body is wearing out. You can't do any of the things you used to do and you wish you could do, and there's on and on and on. So, let's, engaging with our aging that Solomon ends with, in verses 2, 3, and 4, I'm on the outline here now. In verses 2, 3, and 4, and 5, he gives three descriptions of older age. One is a gathering storm, one is an old house, and verse 5 is an old man. So let's continue reading here. In the days that the watchmen of the house tremble and mighty men stoop, the grinding ones stand idle because they are few, and those who look through the windows grow dim. Okay, stooping over, verse 3. Now, one of the things I noticed at my house, and I remember I had a great friend in high school, Delmer Hirschman. He and I were friends through high school, and I can't tell you all about him, but I remember him talking about the old men in our community. He said, did you ever go over to what's-his-name's house and see how he had to... No, nails. Nobody drives nails in walls to hang clothes, but I'm in lots of houses where I grew up that happened. He said, you ever been over to his house and noticed how he kept having to move the nails down on the side of the wall? Because when he was 40, he could reach up here and hang clothes up, and then he was here and it could... Okay, in my house, I put up all the hangers for clothes when I was in my 40s. Right now, I have to stand on my tiptoes. It's like, oh, get up there. Okay, so stooping over, molar, the grinding ones. That's your molars. You know, they've fallen out, and you don't have too many of those grinding ones left. That, fortunately in America we have great dental care, so you can wind up, so the dentist looks in my mouth and says, oh, you still have them all. Yeah, good, other than one. Good dental care did that. So this is what he's talking about here, and like Ray said, this is figurative language here. And the doors on the street are shut, the sound of the grinding mill is low, and one will arise at the sound of the bird, and all the daughters of song will sing softly. Your ears can't hear, the doors are shut, and the sound is low. You hear the birds, you're unable to sleep at night. You rise at the sound of a bird in the morning. I had a bird at my house a few years ago. He lasted 2 years. I timed it by the clock. 5:13 every morning. This bird would go. I'm like, man, how's he do that? And he stayed for 2 years. I don't know if he lived 2 years. I don't know if he moved somewhere else. But you can't sleep. I woke up this morning at 3 o'clock. I've been awake since 3. What time is it right now? So I've been awake for 6 or 7 hours already. So you can't sleep at night. Your molars are missing. You're stooping over. Your ears can't hear. You're unable to sleep. Music is not the same. That's the thing about singing softly. You can't hear it right. Verse 5, you're afraid of heights. You're afraid of travel. You have white hair. Moreover, men are afraid of a high place and of terrors on the road. The almond tree, that's your white hair, blossoms. The grasshopper drags himself along. That is non-working limbs. Like a grasshopper has broken limbs and he has erratic walking. The caperberry is ineffective. Now, this one is funny because the caperberry was the Viagra of its day. All sexual activity is gone. No matter how much caperberry you take, it's just not going to work. Okay? So Solomon's right on top of everything that's going to happen here in old age. For a man goes to his eternal home while mourners go about in the street. There we go. Here we go. 6. Remember him. Put your Creator first. Before the silver cord is broken and the golden bowl is crushed, the pitcher by the well is shattered, and the wheel at the cistern is crushed. Those are all figures of death. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher. All is vanity. That's because you can go through all of life and go through old age and miss out on what life's about. In addition to being a wise man, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, and he pondered, searched, and arranged out many proverbs. The preacher, or Eccleslastes, sought to find delightful words and the right words of truth correctly. He honestly did that. The words of wise men are like goads, and masters of those collections are like well-driven nails. They are given by one shepherd. But beyond this, my son, be warned. The writing of many books is endless, or an excessive devotion to books is weariness of the body. I told you last week that that's what I usually tell kids. Go to school and tell your teacher that the old King James says it, much studying is a weariness of the flesh. That's the way it's phrased. So verse 13, the conclusion. Here we are. The end of the story, the conclusion. When all has been heard is, fear God and keep his commandments, because this applies to every person. For God will bring every act to judgment, everything which is hidden, whether it is good or evil. Now he says this again, just back previously a little bit, that every act is going to come to judgment. I was watching during the Trump administration, Dr. Ben Carson, they were doing something in the Rose Garden. And they asked Ben Carson to deliver the prayer. And I've watched prayers delivered on TV from Washington before, but nothing like Ben Carson prayed. And he stepped up to the microphone. He says, our Almighty God, who is our Creator and our eternal Judge, one day we will all stand before you to give an account of everything we've ever said or done. And I thought to myself as I'm watching this, I've never heard a prayer like this in Washington before. It's like it came right out of the Bible and right out of Ecclesiastes. We're all going to stand before you to give an account. So, Ecclesiastes says the end of the matter when you've sorted through everything I've said is fear God and keep his commandments. Remember your Creator before you're too old to do anything for him. You think, okay, one of these days I'll do something for God. I have sat, like John has, at the bedside, I don't have a count on them, of several dying people. I have yet to hear a single one say, I've done all I could for God. I've heard several of them say, I wish I'd done more for God with the life I had. See, when we come to that place, it's too late to back up and make a change anywhere. And what Ecclesiastes is saying, Eccleslastes is saying, wherever we are in our lives, whatever we're in, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, we're still in our youth, and so make up our minds. We're going to put God first and get all this other stuff about life arranged. So that's the poem of old age. By the way, John Wesley.